Yesterday hurt. Yesterday hurt a lot.
Get it, Red!
Pat's right back is. Oh my fucking god! Welcome back, everybody. The Main Stand Podcast, Season 3, Episode 4. We're going to be talking about a big topic this week. Not a crazy big weekend in the Premier League. Definitely one game kind of stood out more than others. We'll talk about that a little later on. Pat, Josh, how we doing?
I'm doing great. I want to hear how the golf was, Mitch. We'll break up the soccer talk. How did you enjoy Atlanta and the golf?
Atlanta was great. The trip was perfect until the flight home. For somebody who is built for New England weather, it was definitely interesting walking 18 miles in 110-degree heat. Went to East Lake for the Tour Championship on Saturday with my buddy Drew, also a Liverpool fan, big Szoboszlai guy, and my buddy Dalton, and we had a fucking hell of a time. Lost 14 pounds walking around the golf course that day. Just water weight, just pissing sweat the whole fucking day, but it was great. We smoked some stogies, drank some drinks, had a grand old time.
Love to hear that. It was a nice weekend, I think, of watching footy for at least me. I can't say for Pat, but a lot of football games on last weekend. Other leagues kind of getting going too, so that was pretty much what I was up to.
I did get to watch the Liverpool game in the sky on the way home, which was nice. Shout out Delta for that.
Hey, they aren't that bad. I think on my plane ride home from England, I remember watching one. A Liverpool game in the sky isn't too shabby.
I just wish I could have yelled, man. I wanted to get excited.
Yelling on a plane when Darwin scores. I don't know how that would be taken by other passengers.
Mostly funny, I would like to think.
I was also a little violently hungover to be doing anything like that.
So today I think we're going to talk about, again, a lot of the episodes this year, I think we're going to try focusing more on, individual topics rather than just kind of a look at the overall field like we've done in the past. And, I think what we're kind of seeing early on, or what we want to touch on, is who's going to challenge City. After 3 games, we've saw City kind of already in front of the pack with 3 wins in 3 games. And I think the big question is kind of where are the other teams going to fall? Is anyone going to push City, I guess, for the title this year? There's a handful of teams just 2 points behind them with 7, and a few more on 6. So I guess we're going to touch on just a few teams here today, and I'll let Mitch kick it off with maybe a team he sees as a challenger.
Yeah, I think the obvious choice is last year's runner-up in Arsenal. I think having a few key pieces come in with Havertz and the likes of Declan Rice, a year removed from kind of a wishy-washy season. You're last place a few weeks into the season, and then you're in a title race. I think they've settled in. I think it's going to take a couple more weeks for Arsenal to really make some moves. Sitting in 5th place right now at 7 points. I think they just need to start finding the goals a little bit more. And once the system kind of gets online, I think there'll be clear choices for a top 3, top 4. And challenging City, obviously.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be like a 4-horse race.
I'm going to just be the guy who comes right out and say it's not going to be a race this year. I think City win the title by like 15 points, personally. Maybe that's bias or whatever, but I think 2nd place will be a really interesting race, but I'm not sold on anyone.
So no challengers.
Right
so Pat's done talking for the episode.
But yeah, you guys can talk. I mean I'll chime in. I'll give some surprises. I think Tottenham have come out and actually looked good to start the season. I know it's an unspoken rule in this friend group to never put any stock in Tottenham because the last time I did that, they finished seventh place. But I've been really impressed with Tottenham at the start of this season. I think Madison has fit right in. I think that new fullback Udongi, is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah, I don't want to give an attempt at that.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with him. I think Sarr has fit in really well in the midfield. I think that they took the Harry Kane money and they did the right thing with it, which is kind of spread the wealth around. Pedro Porro has had a really good start to the year too for them. Tottenham are good. I think they'll be right in there. I think they're going to be a lot better than I initially predicted at the start of the season. But again, it's super early. It's only been 3 games. And another team I think that we love to shit on this podcast is Man United. But I do think they're good too. I think Ten Hag might be a fraud. I'm not sold on him just yet after the start of the season. They might need a new sporting director. I think it's kind of weird that they've bought like 7 of Ten Hag's former players. I think 7 is more than they've actually bought, but they bought a lot of just former Ajax guys, and they haven't really been super great. Mark Cucurella on loan for is something being floated around for them too. So I think they need to sort a few things out, but they should be challenging at least. And then I think this is a nice little segue for Josh to have his time. But the team I actually see challenging City the most is Liverpool. Just in the early days, the first three games. So Josh, why don't you tell us why?
Sure. I like all the teams you guys touched on too. I really agree with the Tottenham shout. Like you said, Pat, James Madison's fit like a glove into that team, and the manager, again, another tough name to pronounce. Done a great job so far, it seems like, even though they lost to Fulham today on penalties in the League Cup. It does seem like he's taking them in the right direction, so we'll see. Some other interesting teams kind of in the top 6 as well. Obviously not going to challenge City, but some ones to keep an eye on in early days. But yeah, like Pat said, I'll kind of transition us into Liverpool, who I do think are going to be challengers this year. I don't want to say title challengers as early in the season when it has been a tumultuous 12 months for Liverpool, but if any match is going to kind of make you believe that Liverpool have a chance this year, it was that game against Newcastle this weekend, right? And I mean, I think me and Mitch could talk for hours about it, but the adversity that team overcame throughout that game, poor officiating, being down to 10 men, away from home at probably the hardest away ground in the Premier League. I think Newcastle had the best home record last year, so the stats back that up. They absolutely bossed it.
Did they?
I believe they did. You can check that. It was either first or second. I know it was very, very high.
I have to check.
Yeah, I think FB Ref would have it if you just go back to last season. But for Darwin to come off the bench, to have that mentality and score the quality of goals, and I'll let Mitch touch on the goals as well. It was just class all around. I think it was a great team performance. Nice to see Trent kind of, I think, recover from a really bad first half and wear the armband proudly and show some passion at the end. I think kind of prove people wrong. People are questioning, how bad he wants it. That shout at the end in the corner, I think, shows how bad Trent wants it and how much he wants this team to succeed. So all around, just a great win. And like last year's win against Newcastle, kind of coincidentally, it really makes you feel like you can push on and do something big.
If it gave me the 2018-2019 Liverpool vibes kind of all over again, and it's been a long time, I think, since either one of us could feel that way, where when adversity is kind of stacked against us in a situation like that, in a game that we should be I guess a little more level-headed at the start of. First 25 minutes was some of the most frustrating football I've watched us play. It just felt really good for them to kind of dig their heels in and show that passion. Trent, who's somebody who doesn't often show emotion like that on the pitch, he's pretty kind of silent with how he does things. It was good to see him get loud. It was a big game, and it felt like a massive turning point in the right direction for this side who's trying to mesh with an all new midfield. And frankly, your newly appointed captain selling out a little bit on a tough red to give up, but is what it is. We are Liverpool. We marched on and we got 3 massive fucking points from that game.
Yeah, and I have a couple directions I want to take this. One, in the theme of what we're talking about today and who can challenge City. Before the season, Newcastle's obviously one of those teams that we were talking about. And I think this game proves why, like we talked about in the last episode when we were talking about Newcastle and Saudi Arabia, feels like they have to win something or kind of keep this momentum for a while before they really challenge. And that game really showed the lack of maturity, I think, on a big stage this team still has, and Eddie Howe has as a manager as well.
Yeah.
Against another top manager. He's gone against Klopp 11 times. Klopp is 11-0-0 against Eddie Howe. And I think the substitutions Howe made at the end of that game, taking off Anthony Gordon and Sandro Tonali, when Gordon had ripped Trent up all game. I love
arguably
Trent,
Anthony Gordon's best game in a Newcastle shirt.
He was, and I don't like Anthony Gordon, but he was pretty much unplayable. And for him to take them off when they really kind of needed that second goal to kill Liverpool off, I don't think anyone understood where he was going with those substitutions. And I think a lot of people, while the players obviously have to get it done on the field, and they had plenty of chances to close that game off. Almiron especially had a couple chances, but a lot of that goes back on the manager to make those substitutions, and that's really, really poor. So that's a big reason for me why Newcastle are still just that one step away. Very, very good team. They have all it takes, but I think they need a couple seasons at this level to really push on further.
And thank you for bringing it up. Almiron did have a great chance, and one of, if not the best save I've ever seen Alisson make to save the game. Ultimately, it's something we see almost on a near weekly basis. Alisson stepping up to stop a massive chance. Just love having that big, beautiful Brazilian in net for us, Josh, don't we?
Well, yeah. I mean, I said a couple weeks ago off camera that I wouldn't transfer him for $160 million. So far, that statement is holding up well for me. But
yeah, I mean, just so three things for me. First, Josh, you were so wrong. Newcastle weren't anywhere near best home record last year. City lost a game at home. They were 17-1-1.
What were they?
Two, Newcastle were fourth in the league at home. They were 11-6-2.
Maybe it was like the second half of the year or something. I saw some stat like
that might be more right. Two, yeah, I actually think Newcastle are on fraud watch for me. And I don't want to take anything away from your performance because that was really good of Liverpool to come back the way that they did. But to me, most of the game felt like how poor Newcastle were at being ahead more than it was you guys like putting on some inspired display 10 men down. When you have 10 men for almost 60 minutes, like there's no way you should lose the game or even really let the other team back in. It was just really poor on Newcastle's part, I felt. And take nothing away from you guys. You did the thing. Winning with 10 men is a really tough feat. And I think it shows a lot of the mental fortitude the squad has, which is why I think, again, they're probably going to get the closest to City. So, but in the light of talking about other title challengers, I think we'd be remiss, again, if we didn't, we should talk about United because similar to you guys, they also pulled off a pretty crazy comeback this weekend, which again kind of showed their mettle as players. They get bantered a lot, but to be 2-0 down in the first 4 minutes of the game and fight back and win the game 3-2 is impressive to see. And I think that if United start getting things right, i.e. Fernandez starts clicking, they probably stop playing Mason Mount, and they find a way to get Antony actually performing, which I think is impossible, but that's a whole different story. I think they will be better. I think when we see Højlund really integrate himself fully into the picture in the later games this season, come 11, 12 games when he's got a couple of games under his feet and he can really get into that United system, I think he's going to do wonders for them. They have a really good squad. They truly have a really good squad. And again, to come back from 2 goals down is pretty big. And I do think United have a lot of the tools necessary this season to be fighting for, second, third in the league. Um, Historically very good at home. Last year they were third in the league at home. And I imagine they're going to kind of kick on and be similarly as good this year. And yeah, so that's just my 2 cents there. I do think that United are their team to definitely watch for at the top. Are we totally discounting Chelsea? Do we not think that there's any shot they get it together? Because they should be, right? Like they should be.
At this point, I think I have to lean into giving them the exact same treatment I gave Forest last year. When you bring in a full new team, literally full, and I guess it does work a little easier when you have a new manager as well. It's kind of like complete fresh slate, everybody's on the same page. I find it difficult to see how they put the pieces of the puzzle fully together throughout the season. I'm not totally sold on throwing the bag and losing. I think a nice young talent in Colwell is pretty big.
Yeah, I think Chelsea's too far away from it for me. Pochettino's a project manager. I think it's going to take him a while, personally. United, I think, too. I don't disagree with anything Pat said. I think they'll be hanging around the top 4, 5, 6 spots. Onana, to me, doesn't really look like as expensive as a keeper as they paid for him. So I think there's still some question marks there, for me, at least, with United.
So, I guess in the same, so discounting United, because I think at the end of this podcast, I want us to come away with who is most likely to challenge City. What's your case for Liverpool being a better challenger than Arsenal this year? Why do you guys feel that Liverpool have what it takes this season to overtake an Arsenal team that really did strengthen and look just as good, if not better, than last year?
I do think Arsenal, I think they have an incredible squad. They had such a good transfer window. I like us if we can get another, again, I think this next week, and we'll talk about it more on Saturday with the window closing, matters what happens in the next 7 days. If we can get a Gravenberch in, I think that does great for our depth and stuff, and that makes me much more confident. I like Liverpool just because we've been there a little bit. I think if you rattle off 7 teams with this Liverpool side, or 7 wins with this Liverpool side, I think the fans start believing. And I think with Liverpool, it sounds cliche, but that has more of an impact at Anfield than it does anywhere else in the Premier League, and that's just a fact.
You say that, but the Emirates is actually building something. That atmosphere last year was crazy there.
Yeah, I don't think it holds a light to Anfield, but I respect what you say as well. They did have a good atmosphere, and it was very much a step up in terms of, we have also to remember where Arsenal have been the last 10 years. It's that whole stadium has been surrounded in negativity. If this Arsenal team loses 2, 3 in a row, where does that atmosphere completely go away? Do they get behind the players more? I think that how bad Liverpool was last year kind of like I think it kind of enameled our fans and made them a little bit harder. It also just kind of made us put us back down, I guess, off our pedestal. But I think it's time for them to go again. I think we've saw a lot of quality around this pitch for Liverpool. I've gone on about Dominic Szoboszlai. I think he literally is one of the best midfielders in the Premier League already.
Spent three games.
Yeah, I know. He's that good, man. I don't even think I'll back down off that statement. He's that good. And when you have the quality Liverpool has, I know me and Mitch want to touch on this as well. We've started a front 3 mostly of Luis Diaz, Gakpo, and Salah, which is class. Diaz has been class. Salah's been good. But to have a guy like Darwin come in off the bench and challenging for that starting spot, I think this could be Darwin's year, and I think he could bag like 25 goals. 25 goals. I really think he could have a really positive year in the Prem. And especially Arsenal don't have that. Arsenal do not have the proper number 9 that can go out and get goals. And if those goals dry up, That's what happened last year when they had injuries and Jesus wasn't that good at the end of the year. They choked on it.
And I think if Cody keeps playing at the kind of grip he's been playing at, we're gonna see Darwin slot in a lot sooner rather than later. And I don't think it's just a matter of Cody like playing poorly. I think it's just who's the hot hand. We kind of have to find that spark. And with Virgil going down, I think it gave everybody on that pitch an opportunity to put their feet on the ground and say, okay, time to go to work.
Yeah.
2 weeks in a row. Josh, when was the last time ever we have seen back-to-back red cards?
I mean, we haven't saw many straight reds under Klopp. I think Mane on Ederson. I can't remember that many.
But back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it would be decades.
Different. It's been different, and it is what it is. Like, obviously warranted where they were. Happy McAllister didn't have to serve a ban, but I don't know. I just think the way the season started for this Liverpool team is push us in nothing but the right direction. I really can't say anything too negative about the start where the squad was coming from last year.
For sure. And I want to emphasize, like, I think we have a different player up top now in Nunez. Like, I think Pat says it all the time. Like, it takes a year sometimes for guys to get good under Pep. I think Darwin could be like that, adjusting to the Prem. I mean, how many times did we see guys, like, really pass a ball through to Darwin last year? Both of his goals against Newcastle's were passes in behind the line, him going against Botman. So it looks like guys like Jota and Salah are really adapting to the way he plays. Whereas last year, I don't think that was the case. And Darwin, last year, I don't think he lacked chances. He lacked quality. And this weekend, his XG on the first goal was 0.07. His XG on the second goal was 0.36, and he scored both of them. So I'm hoping, just some practice. The guy's getting better for Darwin in terms of delivery makes it better, and I legitimately think he's a piece that could make you a title-winning team if we see these performances more regularly. And like I said, Arsenal don't have that.
Yeah, he just needs the ball at his feet a little less. I think it just needs to be more on the run into the run of play, and the system is definitely changing in the right direction. And then having a player like Szoboszlai being able to hold up the midfield and be creative and hold up play on the edge of the box, stuff like that. It's just been so needed these first 3 weeks for our team.
We'll see, and I think a lot can still shake up. Like I said, the window's not over yet. There's a lot of teams outside of Liverpool that are still making moves. So we have Kudos going to West Ham, Ansu Fati looks like, according to Fabrizio Romano in the last hour, going to Brighton. A lot of moving parts and a lot of teams that maybe will come up and start challenging City. We really don't know this early, but these are kind of early days predictions.
I'll tell you right now, no one's challenging City this year.
Definitely not going to be Everton.
It's not. This is the first time in a long time I'm going to sit here and be confident about it. No one's getting close to us this year.
Yes, I mean City just look
wrapped up by April.
City look really good. There's just no doubt about that. So I don't even know how much we can debate you right now because you've put the proof in the first 3 games. Defense is class. They just look like City is normal. So it's tough to even say anything.
Rodri, best player in the world.
Yeah, I mean, Rodri scored some insane goals for you in the past year. He really is probably one of the best midfielders in the world.
I think he is the best midfielder in the world with Kevin De Bruyne injured. I don't even think it's close. I can't say it. You guys know me. I just have nothing but I'm Rodri's biggest fan. Give the dude 4 or 5 top seasons at doing what he's doing for City right now, and I'm putting him in the conversation with Sergio Busquets for best 6 of all time. So
that's why we're having this episode, though, of like who can challenge City. Because when you have a team like City, I mean, there's a lot of guys in your lineup that are the best in their position in the world, and the league kind of revolves around that. And everyone's chasing City. It's been that way for years, and you've improved. I mean, Gvardiol looks actually proper. Rodri's on fire. literally and figuratively.
Kovacic hasn't been too bad.
He's been great. Kovacic has
Hasn't been too bad.
incredible.
He hasn't
You
been
just,
too
you
bad.
just have class all around the pitch, and the fact that we're having an episode after 3 games about who can challenge City says everything you need to know about City's quality.
Agreed, but I do still think the top 4 race is probably going to be more interesting than the title race this season, given the conversations that we've had about a lot of the teams in here. And again, something I'm going to constantly go back to, because City love to have chronically slow starts, is it's only been 3 games. There's a lot of time in the season for good teams to be good and bad teams to be bad. So
That's true, too.
things will definitely start shaping up, around the November, December period. I think we may get a little bit of a better picture of how the table's going to look, but way too early predictions are fun to do. So
Yeah, and the winter is going to be wild because we have AFCON and AFC tournaments in the winter, so a lot of shaking up.
Here's a fun question to ring us out. How long will it take Everton to score a goal this year?
Dude, they barely got by
7
Doncaster
games.
tonight. I mean, I think they scored in the 87th minute tonight against Doncaster to win it. It's tough. It's going to be a tough
Holy shit.
year.
Everton haven't scored a goal. I just pulled the Premier League table up.
I wasn't kidding. Like,
That's
I think
unreal.
McNeil's still hurt. I don't know what is Calvert-Lewin playing, or he must
I
not be.
think so.
0 goals.
I thought I saw him out there.
They look really, really, really bad in every
How are you
way.
worse than Luton Town, man? Burnley are going to bring it back. Different episode. Yeah. Thanks
The Vincent Company episode. Okay, that rounds out episode 4
4.
of the season. We'll have a special transfer deadline day show, and we'll be back again with in-person episodes here soon.
Suits at the zoo.
Yes, sir.
Deuces.